Hello everyone. I wanted to make a quick video after watching yesterday's interview with Zizaran and GGG. Um, I mean, I'm a small-time content creator, if you could even call me that, and I seriously doubt that this video will ever be seen by anyone, but in the off chance it does, or somebody who can relay this information to someone who can maybe forward this to GGG in any way, in case that happens, I'd like to put my thoughts into a video form and try to elaborate a little bit more on some of the issues that weren't really discussed in depth yesterday, despite being talked about a lot. Because in a long form interview, you've got a lot of questions to go through, especially in a heated environment such as yesterday's, when you had chat spamming all sorts of things and Zizaran having to keep up with a bunch of stuff. I wanted to elaborate on just a few points, maybe 3 or 4 points, and maybe expand on the discussion a little bit and try to explain why some things feel bad. And this is coming from a player that really likes Path of Exile 2. I've played Path of Exile 1 for thousands of hours. I love Path of Exile 1. But I love Path of Exile 2 even more, and I think it's one of the better beta tests I've ever participated in. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of issues with it. There are, and so far, I've really been impressed by the way GGG have been improving the game and responding to feedback. So hopefully there's a chance for them to see this. And I'll try to go through it as quickly as possible after a lengthy interview, so we'll get straight into it. The issue with monster speed was discussed a lot yesterday, and the discussion revolved more around, the players want monsters to be slowed down across the board, but that wouldn't be challenging. Oh no, but it's not fun this way. The discussion isn't whether or not every monster needs to be slowed down. There are a couple of monsters that needs to slow down, and to their credit, Mark and Jonathan both said that they'll look at it. But the issue is more not just with the move speed, it's more with the attack speed as well. So when you're playing Mace Warrior, and this is an issue that really pops up when you're playing Mace Warrior, because every other weapon skill has a ranged option somewhat, and you don't have to chase down monsters as much. And with a Mace Warrior, you need to be very close to the monsters you're fighting. And sorry, got a little distracted by the notification there. You need to be very close to the monsters you're fighting, and it's extremely frustrating when you're trying to charge one attack, such as a perfect strike, or even an armor break. Anything other than an auto attack, really. And believe me, I really like auto attacking with maces. I think it's really fun. But when you're charging up a perfect strike and you're being hit constantly and maybe even stunned and have to start over again, it's extremely frustrating, and this happens a lot as a warrior. With spears and quarterstaves, it's less noticeable. You can jump around more, but mace skills feel very slow, and especially when you're fighting, I believe it's the Hag in the Azov Bog, in Act 3, the one where she charges around the arena. It's a circular arena, and she charges around, and you have to chase her. And as a warrior, it's extremely frustrating. That I actually dread doing some of the maps and some of the bosses as a warrior. And I love warrior. I love mace. I mean, people could say play something else, but hammers are a huge power fantasy for me. Every single game I've ever played in my life, I've gone with hammers. D&D, hammers. Even Warhammer 3 Total War, I play the dwarves because they've got hammers. Any game that allows me to use a hammer, I'll use it. And Path of Exile 2 is no different. So this is one of the main issues why it feels frustrating. And I know I'm not the only one who loves this sort of close combat, especially with maces. Another thing to talk about with mace skills is the hard +1 second added to some of the skills, such as Rolling Slam, or I believe there's a couple of other ones. I don't have them memorized on the top of my head, but I do think even though they've been buffed from 1.6 seconds to 1 second, it still feels kind of bad, because every other skill in the game, as you level up, as you add supports, as you get better, every other skill gets faster. You feel faster. In an ARPG, feeling faster is great. And you never really feel that with maces. Yes, your attack speed does increase, the animation does increase a little bit, but I think being able to knock off a couple of tenths of a second from some of those mace skills, especially with skills such as Perfect Strike, which you have to charge up anyway, it just feels so slow. Even when everything's faster, those skills just feel slow, and it's kind of frustrating. Mace doing a lot of damage doesn't matter if you can't get the damages off in time. And I think this leads to one of the biggest frustrations with melee combat. Maybe with time, when we have axes and, swords and flails, it'll feel better. But I really do think mace needs love, and I am biased here a little bit, so please take a look at this. I know you've balanced it around, and I know it hinges on a lot, but really, when you're playing a mace warrior, again, you have to be up in the monster's ass. You have to be right up there in their ass. And you have to see it to be able to hit it. And when we're that close, we need a little bit of love. Exactly, I made those points. Now, going back to the issue with monster speed or player speed, removing travel skills are fine with the game. I do think they add a lot. I love PoE 1, I love zooming around with my Frostblink, but in PoE 2, I like that we don't have that option, but in return, we do need a little bit more guaranteed move speed. This could be with extra move speed on boots. It could be an implicit, as suggested, or it could just be runes. Even a 5 to 10% move speed rune that we can place on our boots would be immensely helpful. Because what I often find I have to do in the campaign is just sell or disenchant every single boot I find, just because they don't have any move speed. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel fine. Whereas in PoE 1, on your second character, after you've unlocked the move speed on your crafting bench, if you find some good boots with a lot of good stats, but it's missing move speed, you can just slap it to 10% move speed, and you feel good. It feels good. You can actually use those boots. In PoE 2, we can't do that. So I do think move speed is a huge issue that we need to be looked at. You don't need to give us a lot of move speed. You don't need to give us, I don't know, more than 30 to 35%, as is the default in the game right now on the maximum side, but you need a bit more, especially for the first half of the campaign, the first 3 acts. Like I said, there's so many times I play hardcore SF and I die all the time, and it's very frustrating when you're in Act 3, you're in the middle of Act 3, and you still haven't found better boots than your, sometimes even blue 10% move speed boots, and you're trying to craft them and you just can't because you don't get enough mats to be able to do it, you don't get enough currency. If you're unlucky and the shop doesn't happen to sell those better move speed boots, you're stuck. And while it's good to go back every level up and check the vendor, I understand the issue where you're really invested in continuing the campaign. Maybe you're at a particular point in the campaign or the story where you want to power on. You're looking forward to that next skill book drop, and you just don't want to go back just to check if there's boots every level up. So yeah, maybe runes would help in the absence of a crafting bench. Now, while we're talking about crafting, this is one of the biggest issues. Issues with drop scarcity. The reason why a lot of people are complaining isn't just because of RNG. A lot of discussions yesterday were based around, it doesn't feel that bad for me, but it feels really good for some players. Oh, we need to standardize this. It's not so much being able to standardize it. For the record, I drop a decent amount of crafting mats, and I disenchant everything. So I'm never really starved for Regal Orbs or Exalts. Like in my latest character, which I'll show in a little bit, where I'm in Act 5 at the moment, on my Huntress. I think in total I've dropped about 10 Exalts, but the issue is, even if you drop 10 or 20 Exalts, in the early game you don't have many crafting options. You need to Exalt Slam. You have no other way out of it. Sure, you have enough transmutes and augments to maybe mess around with things, but in Path of Exile 1, because the augments roll both of your magic implicits, you can find what you're looking for a lot quicker. So in Path of Exile 1, augments allow you to get to your desired stats, affixes a lot quicker. And on top of that, essences are very useful in Path of Exile 1. In Path of Exile 2, I find that the essence are pretty much useless. Because what you end up doing is, you end up taking an essence, and which don't drop a lot, by the way, in the campaign. You're lucky if you have even a couple that you need at that very moment. Like, if I'm playing a warrior and I drop maybe 2 physical damage essences, and I apply 1, even if you're guaranteed to get the one you want a lot more than just simply transmuting, the second affix isn't as guaranteed, and you end up scrapping it, because at least in Path of Exile 1, you can re-roll with your transmute. You can say, this didn't work, so you just re-roll with the transmute. You have no chances to re-roll. So oftentimes that item is just garbage. You throw it in the trash. Which again is fine. I'm all for item scarcity, but we need more options for crafting in the early game. One suggestion I have is maybe allow essences to be crafted on magical items. Maybe you want to transmute or pick up an item with 1 good affix, and the second one you can add with your essence. Maybe that would help. I don't have any good solutions to this other than the fact that we need more options, but maybe this is something to be looked at. I'm okay with moving into maybe Act 2 or even Act 3, right? Right now I'm in Act 4 and oh yeah, I said I was in Act 5 earlier. I meant Act 4. I'm still thinking in terms of the old game. I'm in Act 4 right now, and my amulet still has 3 affixes, which is fine. I can make do with it, but I never get enough exalts to be able to maybe roll that item even more. And by the way, I don't even drop a lot of amulets, which I find. Rings are fine. I generally drop some rings, but amulets are a real issue in the campaign. And yeah, I think some of those drops can be looked at. So another point of contention is often, oh, the crafting bench is a lot better, and then I hear GGG tell us that, oh, the rune system is supposed to be the new crafting bench. While it's very, very advantageous to have a chest piece with potentially 8 affixes, I agree that that's very powerful. The truth is, runes end up not being as great as crafting benches, because for starters, you can't socket any runes on your rings or amulet. That's one of the biggest issues. Secondly, on your weapons, you can only ever, when you socket a rune in your weapons, it can't be defensive. In Path of Exile 1, if I'm really stuck for a particular resistance, I can just temporarily craft something on my weapon, and every little bit helps your survivability. We don't really have that option. We're really starved for defensive slots if you think about it, and especially in the early game. I keep repeating, especially in the early game, because it's really true. I understand that solo self-found should mostly be challenging, and the game doesn't necessarily need to be balanced around it entirely, but I think as a baseline, you really do need SSF characters to at least barely get by for it to feel better in the main game where trading is applicable. Because even when you're playing on standard and you can trade, you don't want to trade for every little thing. You don't want to keep going out of your campaign and then messaging, trying to find something on the side, and then messaging, and then that's also a lot of why the frustration with trading comes from. It's why I started SSF. I don't mind the friction with trading, but I would just rather solve all my problems myself. I don't like interrupting my campaign to go and buy something. And this is something that you never really do in Path of Exile 1 in the campaign unless you're really stuck. Generally, you have all the tools you need, and a crafting bench is a big part of that. Now, I'm not saying add crafting bench to Path of Exile 2. I'm glad that it's different, but that just means that we need more. Again, it comes back to the same position I had, where we need more options in the early game. It's just the only way to do it. Or we need a lot more Exalt and Regal drops, but I understand that that affects the economy in a negative way in the long term. So I don't know. I wish I had more concrete ideas other than maybe essences being a little bit more powerful, and maybe something else. Maybe Orbs of Alchemy could be a little. Maybe the drop rates on Orbs of Alchemy can be increased a little bit, because it really is. You really struggle a lot trying to get the affixes you need, and no matter, you could give us 2 times, 3 times the amount of exalts, and maybe we'll barely get by. So, I think it's an important thing to look at, and I think it will affect how people feel during the campaign, and it will alleviate a lot of the problems that people are complaining about. Yes, I'm going to show, still using my spear from the beginning of Act 3 in my mid-Act 4, 5, because I can't craft. Let me show you quickly what I mean. This is my spear. I've been using it since the beginning of Act 3. By the way, we're not dropping enough quality blacksmith's whetstones to be able to really modify these items as well as we could. I'm really running into problems right now with this weapon. I need to change it, but I'm not dropping... Again, I don't have enough crafting materials to... and I've slammed a lot of exalts, trust me. I don't hold back. Like I said, I've dropped a lot of exalts, but it just hasn't been enough to try. And these are all projects that I've had to sort of suspend until I get more exalts, so that I can continue the project. But by the time I get exalts to be able to maybe continue this project, I move on to the next set of spears, the next tier of spears, and then I have to start all over again unless I drop something or find something in the vendor. And it's just frustrating. This is why people are complaining about there not being enough drops. So yeah, that's what I mostly want to talk about with in regards to drops and crafting issues. Oh yeah, we also lose 10 resistances between acts, and this makes keeping up with resistances more difficult, so maybe buffing the runes even further would help. I know you mentioned it in the... I know GGG mentioned it yesterday in the interview, but I really think we can do a lot more there. I've written down here that I think the game mainly suffers from feeling unfair more than it being bad. I do not think it's a bad game. It's one of the best beta tests I've ever played, and I've been playing games for... I'm an old man. I may not look it, but I'm an old man. And I've participated in a lot of beta, and man, my hopes and dreams have been smashed so many times, but I really see the potential in this game, and I really like it. And I understand that it's not going to be as good or have as many options as Path of Exile 1, which has been iterated on for 12 years. But right now, some things don't feel fair in the game. And that's not necessarily make the game easier across the board, just the little things, like I said, like maybe improving crafting or the drops a little bit, maybe slowing down some monsters, or allowing melee characters to be able to chase down fast mobs or evasive mobs a little better. Another couple of notes that I wanted to add on. Masteries, there was a discussion about masteries yesterday. I think masteries are great, and I think Rax today in his video was talking about how he hasn't heard anyone say that the masteries are bad, and I tend to agree. I think the masteries are very interesting. They're very interesting to aim for, and I don't think they have a lot to do with notables. Notables are always fun to get anyway. The way I've always felt is notables are more fun to get, but the mastery helps you round your character a little bit more for what you want. So maybe revisiting that design point would be advantageous. Maybe some of the issues, such as our resistances not feeling up to par, or maybe our stun thresholds or other issues, maybe they can be mitigated with masteries, because I remember clearly how relieving it would be to get to a mastery and just solve one of your problems. Right now, notables are good, but even if you improve all of the notables across the board, having another extra layer of having more options is always why I've loved Path of Exile. And I feel like Path of Exile 2 in its current state doesn't have enough options on the skill tree, or in the crafting, which granted will be improved in the future. I understand that, but I just like to make a point that things need to feel more fair, and one way to do it is by providing us with more options. So I really hope GGG revisit the masteries for Path of Exile 2. It also helps because when you look at the skill tree and it's this big mess, and you don't know what you're looking at, seeing the mastery logos in the center of the clusters really help you navigate your way around. So, I mean, we don't have health masteries here, but especially in Path of Exile 1, it was really the best way to see where the health nodes were, instead of just searching for everything, was just to see, oh, this is where the sword nodes are, this is where all the daggers are, etc. And I think Path of Exile 2 would benefit greatly. And the last point I want to make is the Act 3 map revamp is amazing. I was incredibly relieved when I read first line that was something like, "We're improving, we're changing the drowned city." I let out a big sigh of relief. I hate that map. There are times I've spent 20 to 25 minutes on just that one map, because you end up finding the path to the Ziggurat, and then you have to go back and try and find the forge, because you never want to do that map again. So you try and find everything at once, and then you've got all the witches with the drowning orbs and everything, and it's just frustrating. So I'm glad you're revamping that, and maybe just to suggest a couple of other maps that may need a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, is Freythorn in Act 1. It's a pain. Sometimes you'll get a good layout where it'll just be, the ritual shrine, and then immediately after that you get the boss, but it's very rare that happens. You end up having to go one by one across the map, and it's frustrating. The mobs there, they do all those ground effects, and you have to keep going through these very, very narrow bridges, and then you end up having, oh god, I really need to fix these notifications. And you end up having to go through all these very narrow passageways, and if there's some chaos bullshit on them, it just turns into a massive slog. So Freythorn is very frustrating, and the Grim Tangle has many frustrating dead ends. It's not bad when you know the layouts, but you still get stuck at least a couple of times on every run through. You will get stuck because of the nature of the map and how the mini map looks very different. Sometimes you won't even know there's a path because the wall kind of blocks it. So I think Grim Tangle needs a little bit of a tweak, not much, but Freythorn and Grim Tangle for Act 1 I think need a little bit of love. The rest, I'm sure there are a couple of dead ends in the manor, but I don't get stuck there as much as I used to, so maybe it is better. And with Act 2, the Titan Grotto, sometimes, again, you get a really good path and you can just go straight to your target. And Keth, I love Keth. I love the theme. I love the monsters there. I actually really love the whole atmosphere in there, but again, too many dead ends. It's very frustrating. And I haven't mentioned it here, but also, I believe, need to check real quick. Forgot what it's called. Yeah, the Halani Gates. The Halani Gates. You have to find the pathway to the next area, but you also need to find Balbala, which is just, again, goes back to the frustrating thing where you have to backtrack a lot, and you can put as many checkpoints as you want. It's still frustrating. So those are a couple of maps that could need to be looked at. The Dreadnought is also pretty much a nightmare, but you've already stated that you're looking at it, both the mobs there and the design. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to drone on and on. There are a million other things that could be commented about, but these, as a player who loves Path of Exile 2 in its current state, and I don't care if people call me a shill or whatever, I really don't give a shit. I really like Path of Exile 2, but these points really need to be addressed and would help the game feel a lot better really, really quickly. I mean, the feedback you'd get would improve so much in such a short amount of time that I think it's worth looking at. So, thank you. Like I said, I have like 15 subscribers on this channel. I don't think that anyone will ever see this, but on the off chance you do, and I don't like spamming these on Reddit or whatever, because when I see people do it, it just turns me off them. So I won't be doing any of that, but I don't know. If this somehow ends up catching GGG's eyes, I would love if they could take a look at it. So yeah, thank you.